So I was going to, I wanted to read something to you, actually. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, just before he left this world, he gave some very pertinent teachings, to his followers. And I wanted to read them out because they give details of, how we should think in order to achieve this ideal consciousness, this ideal pure Krishna consciousness as preachers. Prahlad Maharaj was the ideal preacher. So be patient with me. I'll just read these out and then maybe we can discuss them. These are all statements that were made by Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur right towards the end of his life, intending to instruct his disciples on the mentality that he wanted them to have, the behavior that he wanted them to have. And in them are contained the details of how to have this proper, perfect consciousness of Prahlad Maharaj. 1. We are put to test and trial in this world. Only those who attend the kirtan of the Lord, of the devotees, the kirtan of the devotees, can succeed. So we should come to the kirtan. First thing. Prahlad Maharaj was always having kirtan. Every time his teacher stopped teaching nonsense, and as Tiffin-hour Prabhupada said, that he would stand up on the bench in his classroom and start preaching to his classmates, his little children demons. And he was chanting, and he got them to chant. He was always chanting. 2. Every spot on earth where discourses on God are held is a place of pilgrimage. So this has all kinds of subtle ramifications. When we come to the class to hear, when we come to the kirtan to hear, we should be coming to a place, that is a place of pilgrimage. We should cultivate respect for the atmosphere, respect for the deities, respect for the devotees, respect for the speaker, respect for the Bhagavatam, and the mentality that comes out is that this is a place of pilgrimage. This is something holy is happening here. Therefore we sit up, the speaker sits up, not because we think we're something, no, but the Bhagavatam. We sit up because the Bhagavatam, during Prabhupada's last pastimes, he was in the bed, and he couldn't get out of the bed. He was in his disappearance bed, and he asked Hansaduta or Bharadwaj or somebody to chant. Or no, I'm sorry, he asked Pradyumna to read. Yeah, he asked Pradyumna to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita to him. So he immediately got on the floor down by the bed next to Prabhupada. He said, no, you sit up here. He wanted him to sit on the bed with Prabhupada. And Pradyumna was, no, Prabhupada, I can't, sit on the bed on your level. No, that's not for you. The Chaitanya Charitamrita. He said, it must be here. It must be on this level. It should not be down. I cannot sit above the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You see? And in this way, even right to the end, he was showing, his humility and his deep, realization and assimilation of the principles. The spiritual principles. 3. Possessions of objects not related to Krishna is our main malady. And I mentioned this, I think, two lectures ago, how when Shingadev was saying, it doesn't matter that you're in this material world. You will overcome these things by my mercy. Because you will attain to this state of always glorifying me. So, that it's not important that we're in the material world is a sweeping statement, as I said the other day. It doesn't make any difference where you are in the material world. It doesn't make any difference what your position is, whether you're a lowly sweeper on the street or whether you're an exalted king. whatever you have, it belongs to Krishna. And if you see it like that, if you see possessions in relationship to Krishna, then you are not in a diseased condition. And as soon as you think that what you have belongs to you rather than belongs to Krishna, then you're fallen, no matter who you are. You know, a pauper can be proud of his penny. So possessions of objects not related to Krishna is our main malady. Not that we don't have objects. There's a picture in Srila Gurudev's sitting room, you know, of Bhaktisiddhanta, you know, sannyasi, sitting in a car, dressed in a very kind of fine coat, with the driver and a couple of other devotees around. That may not seem very opulent to us now in America, but in those days, that was inconceivable. It was inconceivable that a sannyasi would, what to speak of wear sewn cloth, to ride in an automobile. At that time, there weren't hardly any automobiles. This had to be before 1936, when he left. It must have been in the 1920s, or early 30s at most. So he had everything. He drove a car into Radhakund. Blew everyone's mind completely. And then what did he lecture on? He lectured on either first verse of the Bhagavatam, and he lectured for like a month or something on one verse, and he said, I could have lectured for 6 months on this verse. And he never got to the, pastimes of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, because he was so determined that the foundation be solid. Unless the foundation of our behavior is solid, we don't have the foundational principles solidly assimilated until our behavior changes. And our behavior first starts to change when our attitude changes. And our attitudes, you can detect our attitude changing when something happens to us that is normally the cause of anger or frustration or whatever, or even jubilation, and we don't go there. We don't respond, in a way that causes us to become swept away and forget Krishna, forget our devotional service, and forget that the persons we're dealing with are actually parts of Krishna. These are the tests, And this can't be done overnight. It takes time for everyone, and each person will awaken at a different rate, at a different time. And therefore all of us need to be patient, not only with ourselves, but with others. We can't expect perfection out of others. False expectation brings disappointment. And if we have a false expectation about the way things must be, then we will constantly live in disappointment. And no one can live constantly in disappointment. Therefore, those who don't actually go forward, those who don't actually progress, and actually when I say by progress, I mean assimilate these instructions into our practice. This is what sadhana bhakti means. It means to practice being a devotee, even if you're not, feeling like it. There's that famous story of Gargamuni in the very beginning. First time he came to the temple, everyone was waiting and set 26 2nd Avenue for Prabhupada to come into the room. When he entered the room, everybody prayed obeisances, except Gargamuni. And he was standing up. He told me he looked like a flagpole in the midst of a bed of daisies. He said. And then Prabhupada looked at him and he said, "Aren't you going to bow down?" And Gargamuni, if you know him, he's so funny. He said, "But I don't feel like bowing down." And Prabhupada said, "You bow down, and then you'll feel like bowing down." Of course, there was a lot of social pressure, like everyone else in the room was bowing down, so there were a lot of influences on him, but he bowed down. And then he explained that later on, after that, he felt like bowing down. And then he, gave him faith in Prabhupada, it increased his faith in Prabhupada. So this is practice. This is devotional service and practice. Even if we don't haven't assimilated it, as soon as we understand it or theoretically accept something, then we have to practice. Then we have to practice acting like that. Now, this one is directly pertinent to the verse that we're discussing today. Number 4. Number 4. Let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. Shall I repeat that one again? Let me not desire anything. Notice it doesn't say let you not desire anything. This is Bhaktisiddhanta talking to his disciples, and he says, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. When we can come to this state of consciousness, we will have achieved this position of Prahlad Maharaj, and we will be safe. We will be secure completely in our spiritual lives. Nothing will ever be able to disturb us again, no matter what's happening to us. Look what happened to Prahlad. His own father, a huge demon, tried to kill him in so many ways. And each time he devised a newer way. And each time Prahlad Maharaj simply chanted Hare Krishna and depended on Krishna. And because he was actually completely Krishna conscious, Krishna appeared each time and protected him under conditions that were impossible to be protected in any other way. An elephant. He brought an elephant to step on him. And Krishna is in the heart, so the elephant wouldn't step on him. He threw him down, like a big hill full of stones. The stones became soft, like pillows. Threw him into a pit of poisonous snakes. The snakes wouldn't bite him. So we should actually desire welfare, for the welfare of everyone. We should desire the highest good for everyone, even those who may not be able to appreciate, or those even who are sometimes antagonistic against us. We should wish for their good. Six, those favored by God find their paths set by thorns. Look what happened to Prahlad Maharaj. He was the purest devotee. He heard from Narada Muni from the womb. He heard everything, the whole Bhagavatam from the womb, and therefore he came out fully Krishna conscious. And yet look what happened to him. His own at the tender age of 5, tried to kill him in so many ways. So not that we should think that because I'm in some kind of difficulty, I'm not favored by the Lord. This is misconception. And as long as we're in that misconception, we'll be disturbed by the misbehavior of others. This is the practical application of devotional philosophy, of bhakti. This is bhakti yoga. 7, there is no peace or happiness in our worldly life. Circumstances create turmoil and annoyance. So if you're thinking that there's going to be a utopia while you're in this material world, as Prabhupada wrote in that famous letter to Trey Rishi on February 4th or 6th, 1972, that we should not, even within this Krishna consciousness movement, expect utopia. And he said this is actually impersonalism, lingering, latent impersonalism, because we're looking for something that doesn't have any fault, and it's not possible to find that in the material world, even among devotees, even among this movement. And therefore, and if we can't find it, then we either opt for voidism, and we become a Buddhist, or just go away and become a materialist again, And Prabhupada said, no, this is actually a symptom of impersonalism, that we expect, utopia. Rather, we should understand that this material world is a place of difficulty. There will be annoyances. You can't avoid. No one. Even if you're the most elevated person, Prahlad's the most elevated person. He couldn't avoid this annoyance, this disturbance. Therefore, we must learn to live in this world undisturbed by the annoyances. Then we can be happy. Then we can be free. Chant the Maha Mantra loudly and with attachment. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils, and pests. It's Bhaktisiddhanta's, he's classic. Sometimes when Prabhupada would go to a new place, in the very beginning, he would go to a new place, or he would revisit a place that he had just started, and he would start the kirtan, and when he started the kirtan, what came back was, Hey Krishna, Hari. It wasn't like strong, it wasn't full-hearted, it wasn't full-throated. And then Prabhupada would chant a little louder, and he would chant a little louder, and then finally by the end of the kirtan, everyone was chanting full throttle, full-throated. You see, it's very important to do that. In India, sometimes you see, many people, they stand with like this during the kirtan. You notice that? They're trained. It's a tradition. It's just a tradition. They ring the bells, the gongs, and they stand, And the philosophy behind it is that they don't want to contaminate the holy name. They think that they're impure, and therefore they shouldn't chant. Otherwise they'll, make the holy name impure. They'll contaminate the holy name as if they can contaminate the holy name. It's really, really a puffed up attitude, because if you think that you can, contaminate God, then you're thinking you're better than God or more powerful than God, actually. That's the reality. So we should chant loudly, full-hearted, full-throated, with full enthusiasm, And even if you don't feel like it, Prabhupada said, do it. And then that will bring your enthusiasm up, that will clear out the cobwebs, that get lodged in our hearts when we're, coursing through the world. Be indifferent to bizarre gossips. This is his translation of, what is that term? I'm having a senior moment. There's a Bengali term that means Gramyakatha. Yeah, Gramyakatha means village talk. The villagers, they always talk. Did you hear what this one did? Did you see what that one did? This one did. They have jokes, right? That sometimes housewives, they're over the fence, neighbors, and they're, did you see what that one did? Did you know what that one got? And you know what this happened over here and this and that. See, these we should avoid. Gossip. We should avoid, especially talking about others behind their backs is very bad. We should avoid that. All of us do it. We all fall into that trap. And sometimes we're well-meaning even. We're trying to help understand how to improve situations, how to correct situations. But we should always remember that if we're not willing to say to the face of a person what we are in the back, then it's not pure. And it won't have that effect. It won't have the proper effect of correcting the situation. Materialists, they'll say something nice to the front. And he has another one here. Says, a sycophant. He calls it a sycophant is neither a guru or a preacher. Sycophant is one who always is flattering. To the face is saying something nice, and in the back, is criticizing. But a devotee will do just the opposite. They will speak the truth in front of the person, even if it's unpalatable, and behind the back, they will praise that person. They will glorify that person. That helps create a devotional atmosphere when people are glorifying the devotees, when the devotees are not present. So these are the practical applications of the philosophy that we need to incorporate into our daily lives. And as we do that, the more of us who do it, the atmosphere will change, and we'll feel enthusiastic, and we'll feel like coming together and chanting and hearing with one another. He said, I'm going to have to skip some because we're getting late. There's a whole bunch of them, but I wanted to get to some of the later ones. I want to read all of them, actually. They're just so wonderful. Unless we are devoted to God, secularism will not leave us. In this world of Maya, averse to the Lord, full of trials and tribulations, only patience, humility, and respect for others are our friends for Hari Bhajan. And of course, this is fully exemplified by Prahlad Maharaj, who is giving affection and respect to his father, who just tried to kill him. Even after he left, he doesn't wish him to go to hell. He wishes that he become liberated. The Lord, Gaurasundar, puts his devotees in various difficulties and associations to test their patience and strength of mind. Success depends on their good fortune. So we have to be very fortunate to be able to apply these instructions, to be able to tolerate all the trials and tribulations that will be put in our paths by the material nature. What to speak of the Lord himself, trying to reciprocate with us as his devotees, to glorify the devotee, to glorify the process of devotional service. This is what Lord Nrsingadeva is doing with Prahlad. He's glorifying the devotee and he's glorifying the process of devotional service. So what does our good fortune depend on? It depends on pious acts. And we've been given this perfect process, the following of which, the hearing and the chanting and the praying and the serving and the remembering and the worshipping, and the going on a mission, befriending the devotees in Krishna, giving up everything. These things automatically, these are transcendentally pious activities, things. So the more we do these things, the more our piety grows, even if we're not in the proper consciousness mentality. And when we come to a degree of fortune, then we can tolerate anything. Then we can be successful. Here's a good one. When faults in others misguide you and delude you, have patience. Introspect. Find faults in yourself. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. What a valuable lesson. This is particularly pertinent to Prahlad Maharaj in this pastime. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself. This is the proper conception. Once this conception is actually assimilated within our character, then we will not respond with revenge. We will not respond with vendetta. And anybody who's claiming to be advanced or being promoted to being on this platform, should not be seen to be overwhelmed by revenge or vendetta. We should be careful. Then the final one, and I'll end here. I wish that every selfless, tender-hearted person of my followers will be prepared to shed 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpus of every individual in this world. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It's all there. Everything we need to know, everything we need to do, the mentality we need to have, it's all there. So I'm very late. It's almost 9 o'clock. Unless there's a burning question? Are there any burning questions? Pretty self-explanatory. Yes, there must be one burning question.
Where can we find this list?
Where can we find this list? Well, part of it is in that book that was written by Rupa Vilas, the Ray of Vishnu. Towards the end, there's a section, teachings, towards the end. You can find it there. I can give you also. I can forward it to you. Yeah. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much.